Brexit means the UK can finally take back control of its own fishing waters, but fisheries disputes have lasted decades. In fact, the UK was forced to reject Norway's request to police its waters during Margaret Thatcher's era. By UN convention, the UK has a vast area of fishing waters stretching up to 200 miles away from its shores. However, under the Common Fisheries Policy (CFP) launched in 1983, all EU countries have access to everyone else's waters. Leaving the bloc means Prime Minister Boris Johnson has the opportunity to reclaim these waters, although EU leaders are pushing for continued access. Back in 1982, there were numerous disputes involving fishing, including one in which Norway even requested to enforce Norwegian laws on. Documents unearthed by Express.co.uk at the National Archives reveal a request from the Norwegian government to overfly part of the UK's fishing waters to search for some of their own vessels. Norway had imposed a prohibition on herring fishing by its own vessels under its country's national laws. However, due to the CFP, Norwegian vessels were allowed to fish in other countries' waters, where Norway had no legal jurisdiction. Therefore, the Norwegian flight tasking authorities asked Maritime Headquarters, in Pitrevi, Scotland for permission to conduct an air search in UK waters for Norwegian vessels breaking this law. The purpose of the flight would be to look for and photograph a number of Norwegian purse seine fishing vessels, which they suspected were herring fish. They proposed that they would prosecute them once they returned to Norway. The Department of Agriculture and Fisheries for Scotland (DAFS), however, rejected the request. One official said in a letter to the Maritime, Aviation and Environment Department (MAED), "I felt that inevitably a flight in the area would be with the prime object of exercising some kind of control over the Norwegian fishing vessels involved, and that this would not be acceptable to the UK, who, as a coastal state, has sole responsibility for fisheries enforcement in the area." A note from the Maritime, Aviation and Environment Department to legal advisers read, DAFs were unhappy about the Norwegian proposal and said that the Germans had suggested something similar in Brussels recently. The idea had been rejected on the grounds that the enforcement of fishery regulations was for the coastal state. Although it was difficult to advise without knowing more of what the Norwegians actually proposed to do, you suggested that, while we could not stop them from flying around, we should be unwilling for them to carry out any policing activities in our waters.